Have you ever imagined that your entire life could change forever in a single moment? Not because of an accident or a dream, but because of a single sheet of paper left on the kitchen table. That was exactly what happened to Leila Evelyn Harper on the morning of her 19th birthday. Leila didn't receive a birthday cake or candles. There were no wishes or celebrations. Instead, she received a marriage contract. The crisp white pages lay neatly on the table beside a cup of untouched, ice-cold coffee. Margaret Harper, once a proud woman from a respected New York family, now sat with tired eyes and slumped shoulders, broken by debt and desperation. "Sweetheart, this is the only way," her mother whispered, unable to meet her daughter's gaze. "We owe the Hawthorne Corporation everything. The house, your father's cancer treatment bills, all the loans, everything." Leila stared at the bold name printed at the top of the contract. Marcus Reed Hawthorne, 35 years old, CEO of one of America's largest real estate and finance empires. She had seen his face once on the cover of Forbes, sharp jawlines, piercing steel blue eyes, a man known as the silent ruler of Manhattan, a man who reportedly never smiled, and now he wanted to own her too. 3 days later, Leila stood inside a private chapel on the Upper East Side, wearing a white dress she had never chosen. In her hands was a bouquet of white roses she didn't want. There were no guests, only lawyers and an elderly priest who looked deeply uncomfortable. Marcus Reed Hawthorne stood at the end of the aisle in a perfectly tailored black suit. He didn't smile, he didn't blink. He simply watched her with those cold, unreadable eyes as she walked toward him. The vows were short, cold, and purely legal. When the priest said, "You may kiss the bride," Marcus turned to his lawyer and calmly instructed, "Send the signed copies to my office by 4 o'clock." Leila felt her heart tighten. This wasn't a wedding, it was a business transaction. They left the chapel in a black Rolls-Royce, sitting on opposite ends of the back seat in complete silence. Manhattan glittered outside the windows, beautiful, dazzling, yet as cold as the man beside her. Marcus's penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a prestigious midtown tower. The interior was breathtaking. Italian marble floors, priceless artwork, floor-to-ceiling windows. But despite all its luxury, the space felt freezing, emotionally barren. A staff member led Leila to a luxurious guest bedroom, not the master suite. She told herself she wasn't hurt. She told herself she was relieved. That night, still wearing her wedding dress, Leila sat on the edge of the bed. A soft knock sounded at the door. Marcus entered. He had removed his jacket and loosened his tie. In his hand was a small, cream-colored envelope. He stopped in front of her, silently observing her for a long moment before holding out the envelope. "Open it," he said quietly. Inside was an antique bronze key and a neatly folded note. Leila unfolded the paper. The handwriting was sharp and precise. "This key opens the private library on the 47th floor. It once belonged to my mother. I am the first person I've given it to in 12 years. Leila looked up, confused. Marcus sat down in the chair across from her. For the first time, he didn't look like the powerful CEO. He looked like a man carrying an enormous, invisible burden. "I know how this must look," he said softly, "but I didn't do this to punish you. Your father came to see me 6 months before he passed away. He knew he didn't have much time left. He asked me to protect you and your mother." Marcus's voice grew quieter, a rare flash of pain crossing his eyes. He said, "You were too proud to accept charity, so I did it the only way I knew you would accept. The debt your family owes, I cleared it the day your father died. This contract is not a cage, Leela. You were never trapped." Tears welled up in Leela's eyes. "Then why? Why the wedding? Why all of this?" Marcus stood up and walked to the window, gazing out at the glittering Manhattan skyline. "Because I made a promise to a dying man who loved his daughter more than anything in this world. He wanted you protected, provided for, and free. This marriage gives you legal rights, security, access to the best education, and a future without fear. After that, everything is your choice." That night, Leela couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m., she took the bronze key and rode the elevator to the 47th floor. When the heavy wooden door creaked open, she gasped. The library was magnificent. Walls covered floor to ceiling with thousands of books, a warm fireplace, 2 plush velvet armchairs, and soft lighting. It smelled of old paper, cedar, and quiet comfort. It was the only truly warm room in the entire cold tower. On the table beside one armchair lay an open book. Leela picked it up. On the inside cover, in faded, elegant handwriting, were the words, "To my beloved son, the world is much wider than the walls you build. Love, Mom." Leela sat down and cried. She cried for her father, for the man who had built a 52-story fortress of ice just to hide one warm room, and for herself, a 19-year-old girl who thought she had walked into a prison only to discover the door had never been locked. In the weeks and months that followed, Leela visited the library every night. Gradually, Marcus began appearing too. At first, they sat in silence. Then came quiet conversations, then understanding, then something deeper that neither of them could yet name. He taught her how the business world really worked. She shared her dream of studying international law. Without being asked, he enrolled her in the country's most prestigious university. When she confronted him, he simply said with a faint smile, his first real smile, "Your father mentioned it once. I remembered." One evening, Leela asked him directly, "Did you ever plan for any of this to become real?" Marcus lowered his book and looked at her for a long moment with those deep blue eyes. "I only planned to give you the key," he said. "Everything else has always been your choice." Leela Evelyn Harper entered the world of a billionaire as a contract bride, expecting a prison. Instead, she found a bronze key, a hidden library full of warmth, and a man who never forced her to stay, which was exactly why she eventually chose to remain. This story reminds us that sometimes what appears to be chains is actually a gift in disguise. The truest form of love is not loud promises, but quiet respect for another person's freedom. If you're currently feeling trapped in any situation in life, remember, sometimes the door was never locked. All you need is the courage to open it. Thank you for listening. If you love deep, meaningful stories about life, love, and personal growth, please subscribe to Deep Life Stories and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new story. See you in the next one.